Coach Bennett has remade the roster. Now, the big question is how long will Coach Bennett be here to coach them all? Tonight, we discuss the additions and our thoughts on how the roster will be used. What can we expect from baseball in the NCAA tournament? And we can discuss a disappointing end to lacrosse today. We don't ask for much, but please give us a follow and a like on YouTube, and we will keep bringing the heat like we are tonight on the Cavalier Connection. Welcome on into another edition of the Cavalier Connection podcast. I'm your host, Jack Lowe, and joined tonight by Jay Ballard and my dad, Jeff Lowe. Dad, how are you tonight?
Doing well. It's been a while since all three of us been together.
The band is back together once again. Jay?
Yeah, Jack, it's good to see you virtually here. Disappointing end today for lacrosse that we'll be talking about in more detail soon. And just happy to be back and talk Virginia sports.
Absolutely. We already got a fan in here. Softball Chick has arrived already with a quick hello. So a quick shout out to Softball Chick before we move on.
Absolutely. So I'd say we could just get right into it. So basketball obviously has been the biggest thing with the transfer portal and stuff. We were very worried a few weeks ago or even a month ago about how we weren't picking up anybody. We were worried about Tony Bennett. We were saying, in Bennett we trust, though. He'll get some guys. And we have some more additions. So we got Jalen Worley from Florida State, the point guard, who has 1 year of eligibility. TJ Powers from Duke with 3 years of eligibility. Elijah Saunders, who we recently had on, from San Diego State with 2 years left. Dai Amos, I hope I said that correctly.
Day
Ames. I'm sorry. The point guard out of Kansas State, who has 3 years of eligibility. And Carter Lang, the walk-on from Vanderbilt, 3 years left. These additions will go with current roster of Tane Murray, Isaac McNeely, Andrew Rohde, Christian Bliss, Elijah Gertrude, Anthony Robinson, Blake Buchanan, Jacob Kofi, and Ishan Sharma. Jay, what are your initial thoughts on the makeup of this roster, and how do you see minutes shaking out?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of talent here, Jack. It'll be interesting to see how Coach Bennett molds and forms these guys. Honestly, all the guys that have come in through the portal, I see getting a lot of minutes. And so, you wonder what that means for the guys that, have been on the team. So I think if you start, it's hard to tell minutes right now, but, you start looking at the makeup of the roster. Day and Jalen are both going to run the point, but you also have Christian Bliss, who's been in the program. That's going to be in that point guard mix as well. They're different types of players. Jalen is a distributor, not a shooter at all. We talked about before, I think he was like 14% from three last year, some astronomically low number. So, whereas Day is he's a top 100 player in his class, although I think Jalen was as well. But he can score the basketball, and he didn't have to do that a lot at Kansas State last year. He didn't get a lot of run early in the year. As the year went on, he got more and more, and eventually he got into a starting role for them. And I think in one of their last games in the NIT, I think he had his season high of like 16 or something like that. Left-handed kid. I watched his highlight video from last year, and I was really impressed with his ability to finish in the paint, even at 6'1". One in particular that was impressive was, and you can find this on YouTube, he went right into the chest of Hunter Dickinson of Kansas, and had a big finish, layup at the rim. And he's got a good shot. I really like him, especially considering he has 3 years left. The most important player I think that we got was TJ Powers, from the kid from Duke, 6'9". I know he didn't get a chance to do a lot last year, but he can flat out stroke it from three. And the question is always going to be with Coach Bennett: how do these guys play defense? Jeff got to talk to Elijah Saunders last week for us. We really appreciated him coming on the podcast. Great kid, hard worker. He just wanted to win, and I love that about him. I think he comes in and fills a nice role in that three. He could play really anywhere, 3, 4, or 5 if you went to a super small lineup. But Carter Lang, kid right out of a stab there in Charlottesville, left to go to Vanderbilt for a year. Now he's back. How much is he going to contribute? Because you got Robinson and Buchanan that are, working hard. They've been in Charlottesville. Blake got plenty of minutes last year. So minutes-wise, I'm not sure how it's going to shake out, but I do. If I had to say right now, there's 2 guys that I would almost guarantee. One guaranteed starter in McNeely, and then I'd probably say TJ Powers is as much as a lock as you're going to get. And knowing Coach Bennett, Worley being a defensive first distributing point guard who started 32 out of 33 games last year for Florida State's probably going to get the nod at the point. But who knows? He's got 1 year left. If you really want to make sure you keep everybody in the fold, you got to get these guys with 2 and 3 years left on the court. So, Jeff, I don't know. What are your thoughts on the roster and where things stand with the transfers?
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you take a look at it, it's a very versatile group of players. Like you said, guys can they can play multiple positions, especially the 3 to 5 or 2 to 5. At point guard, you have I think Worley's going to be your starter, and that's just going off of Tony Bennett's personality. He just fits that mold. I mean, 6'7" point guard, 1 year left, going to play defense. He's athletic, and then coming up behind him, you're looking at Ames, who I'm ultra excited about getting Ames on this team. Yeah. And then give it a year. Then you also have I don't know what kind of time Christian Bliss, if any, this season for him. And then you move to the 2, and I know Tony Bennett, one of his guys is Tane Murray. I don't know, but Tane. But if you look at the 2 to 5 or 2 to 4, Tane can play a 2 or a 3. Rhodey 2 or 3. I think Sharma's a red shirt this year. Gertrude, unfortunately, it doesn't look like he's going to be playing this season. And then you got McNeely, who could play 2 or 3, as well as he'll bring the ball down some as well. And then at the 4, I think TJ. So I'm with you. McNeely's a starter. I think Worley's starting. And then Powers. I feel like
I'd say Powers
would be the 4. Then you got Elijah Saunders, who I do believe is going to be an asset. I don't know if you heard in that interview last week, Elijah Saunders was talking about how much Coach Bennett really was praising Blake Buchanan to him. Was that in the interview? I couldn't remember if that was an off-air comment or an on-air, but he was praising Blake Buchanan. So, and then I saw something today I was reading where they were talking about the body of Anthony Robinson, that he has taken advantage of this redshirt year, and he has bulked up, is what they say, like gotten big. I'm excited to see him on the floor and see what he potentially could bring. Some athleticism. We know some of the highlight reel dunks and things they've shown of him, i.e. Jamal Robinson. No, no relation, and he's a bit bigger than Jamal Robinson. Not a whole lot, but And then you got Jacob Kofi. I think he's probably a redshirt guy as well.
I don't know. He's a highly recruited kid.
Where's he going to fit in at?
Well, that's the thing. You're going to have a really deep team, and I think it depends on how developed he comes in, because you can look one way in high school,
right?
But when you get to that college level, but to me, like, let's say Sharma comes in because he's a sharpshooter.
Correct.
If he comes in and he's capable of giving you more than a roadie, well, then roadie sits.
Right.
If he gives you more than Tane sits. You got to play the kids that give you what you need, and so it's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out. This will be one of those years where you really want to go to the blue-orange game or blue-white game, whatever they call it,
right?
To see that
scrimmage. Oh, yeah. For sure.
Yeah. Bradley Kellen, thanks for watching. He wants to know who we think's the best player this year. I don't really know. I have no idea.
It really
it depends on what you're talking about. If you're going to go on points per game, I think you're looking at IMAC.
I would hope. I mean, this is definitely a team that's built around it's going to be a team effort every time you're out there. I feel like whether it's scoring from McNeely, we'll see if Rhodey gets in there, Tane, or if it's just pure being a point guard like Gertrude. The defense, we'll see if Buchanan can bulk up some. But I think it's going to be a pure team effort this upcoming season. I think there's a lot of names that can make an impact. I mean, we'll see. Hopefully, some of these transfers will take off, like we've always been saying, some of the weight off of McNeely's shoulders of having to be the primary scorer on this team, the primary shooter. Hopefully, they'll help out a little bit, but I'm not sure.
I look at the roster and I just don't know. You have teams, when the game's on the line, who's taking the shot. Like last year, it was Reese Beekman. If we needed a basket, Beekman was going to try to get that 8-10 foot shot in the rim or take it to the basket. I don't know who that is this year. I don't know, like from game to game, when the game's on the line, who's taking the shot, which, we just don't know who these guys are.
Do we get to a point where Tane can take the shot? Did we get to that point?
You need somebody who can create.
Based off of what I have watched, and I've watched videos on all the transfers, and we obviously know a lot about.
And they can only show you so much, but
I'm telling you right now, a sneaky candidate to be the leading scorer for this team, and who I think you're going to see with the ball in his hands in the last few minutes is Day.
Ames. I knew that's what you were going to
say. He's strong with the basketball. He's a strong finisher. And if you leave him, he's going to stroke it from the outside. He's a really good basketball player that can score from all three levels. So he's got a lot of game. He's got a lot of offense. Now the question is, can he play defense? And I don't know the answer to that. That's where the highlights always come on the offensive end, unless it's some kind of big block or something. And he's 6'1", so you're not really getting a lot of that. But hopefully he's what they were hoping they got when they got Dante Harris.
in those things, they make you nervous because if you don't play defense, we see Coach Bennett won't put you on the floor.
He will bench.
And with these guys, with the amount of eligibility they have left, other than Worley, you want them to let's just work through it.
Yeah.
I
don't think this year's team is like a national championship contender.
But it can develop.
Correct. I think this is a team that can make the tournament, win a game or two. There's a ton of talent.
Correct.
There's a ton of talent. But they do have to mesh, and Tony Bennett's system takes time. If you remember when we talked to Akil Mitchell, that's it's hard to come in as a freshman or as a first-year player in the program and just be locked in.
That's why.
Go ahead, Jeff.
No, I'll say that's why we hope that Coach Bennett just lets them work through their bugs early in the year. And then hopefully, by next year. And you look at our transfer portal pickups too, that, in the past, some of our guys we've been getting, they've been from Saint. Brody was St. Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
We had
Dante Harris was Georgetown.
Dante Harris was Georgetown. Jordan Minor was he was a smaller school.
It was a really
mid-major.
School,
yeah. Also, Gardner came from ECU.
ECU.
And you look at these guys. This is Florida State, Duke, San Diego State, Kansas State, and Vanderbilt that we just got. So, high level. They were high level recruits. And some of these guys that we've gotten in, and Gardner was an exception, I believe. But
yeah,
the ACC play, just like we were talking in the ACC huddle last night, how we wonder how SMU is going to do joining Power 5. When you get to play against those Power 5 guys night in and night out, in the ACC especially, how is that going to stack up? I told you a couple episodes ago, I haven't given up on Andrew Rohde only because he came from St. Thomas. It's his first year in the ACC against the Power 5. It may take to get some acclimating to playing against that talent, or he might show us this year he's not cut out for this. And hopefully, if so, Bennett just reads the tea leaves and we move on.
Yeah.
And, I personally, I'm with you. I don't see, I love Tane Murray to death. I like the intangibles he brings. He brings a lot of non-box score items that he can give to us. But gosh, I don't want to just compete in ACC. I want to win. Yeah. And I just feel like if we get these guys out here and let them take their lumps, let's play these guys. By the end, they'll have the defense figured out, and then we'll see what Bennett does on offense, if he does make any adjustments. And if so, a guy like you were just mentioning, Sharma, as a sharpshooter in a little bit of a paced offense, a little quicker pace offense, you get down the floor with somebody athletic like Worley or Ames who can get that ball, and kick it over to a Sharma or a McNeely. If we can have a couple guys who can shoot that three, or a TJ Powers, it could just open things up. Let's run with these guys. And when I say run, I'm not saying we get crazy.
Right.
We're not Kentucky scoring 100 points, but let's get a little bit on the move, change the offense up just a little bit, still play that hard-nosed defense, and let these guys get in a little rhythm. I think the rhythm is the biggest thing. And the last thing I'll say is, we don't have a clue how these minutes are going to shake up in the rotation, but Bennett and most schools, when it gets to ACC play, middle of the way, other than last year, because we didn't have a clue what we had, it's down to 7 or 8 guys. So there's guys that are on this roster who are not going to get much playing time, who are top 100 players coming out of high school. And so, I don't believe next season. Well, of course, I didn't believe this coming season. I don't believe all these guys are going to be on this roster next year.
Yeah, but I think what we're going to see next year, Jeff, is that the guys that leave are the guys that were here when these guys got here.
I got you.
Tane runs out of eligibility. I think Tane is the perfect role player, 8 to 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. Come in, give you everything he's got every single night. Mm-hmm. And some nights you're going to think, dang, man, he should be getting 20 minutes instead of 10. And then some nights you're going to say, why is he on the floor at all? Rohde, he's going to have to be better than he was last year. That's
no, I agree. I agree. I haven't given up on him, even though I've been down on him. But we'll see. I want to get him figured out early on and either have him in there or get him out of there, minutes wise.
It seemed like you could do no wrong with Bennett most of the year, but if you remember, right at the end, he kind of fell out of favor. There was one game, I want to say it was senior night, he didn't play at all.
I was going to mention that, and that's the one thing I was going to say. At least I saw Bennett, didn't play him for a whole game. We were talking, we're like, is he hurt? Like, this is not Bennett like.
Right.
And Tane Murray, what he brings, exactly what you said, an 8 to 10 minute physical. He'll make a physical play for you. He'll hit a big three. And exactly what you said, this season, there were games where you're like, oh, Tane Murray's, I got that. Jack would come on the podcast. Yeah, Tane, I told you about Tane. I told you about Tane. But then the next game, you know, you shoot 1 for 6 from the foul line. You make 1 3, and, you know, it's the Tane Murray we kind of know. I love Tane. I love Tane. And I think Coach Bennett does too. Just don't love him too much. Let's play the guys who need to be on the floor, and let's try to win some games this year.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how the playing time does shake out, because you got a lot of that 6'9" that, especially getting Carter Lang as a walk-on, you know, not even using a scholarship for him. You know, I mean, between Robinson, Buchanan, Lang, Powers, you know, there's only so many minutes in that, you know, 4 to 5 range.
I think I if I was a guessing person, I think Blake Buchanan, I feel like he's in for a big year. I think the progression is you're going to see a lot of progression.
Absolutely.
A full off season, because and this is the thing, he played as a freshman a lot. And that's all I'm saying. With these young guys, let's play them. Let's get them out there. Let them learn from their mistakes. I know physically, he wishes he was playing the DJ. Have you seen the picture of DJ Burns? Slim down?
No.
He's lost a ton of weight for this NBA.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Blake Buchanan would like to have played this weighted DJ Burns, because he's definitely you look online, there's a before and after picture. I wish I could pull one up real quick to show y'all, but it's on there. He's lost a ton of weight. But I'm expecting big things from Blake Buchanan this year. hopefully. And I just got this soft spot for I'm just hoping Anthony Robinson. I'm just hoping. I want to see somebody, you know, some of these highlight reels, and I haven't seen the bulk up that I've been reading about, but we'll see. So
yeah. So sticking with basketball here, there's been a lot of talk recently regarding Coach Bennett having only 2 years left on his contract and not having any extensions. The Augusta Press laid out its own thoughts on what they think UVA is up to. Dad, what are your thoughts on Coach Bennett?
Well, you know, first of all, I don't always trust the Augusta Press.
Oh, so I take it with the biggest grain of salt, anything like that.
However, there does seem to be something to this. They're what they think Virginia is going to do. The crazy thing is, it makes a lot of sense. Who knows? You know, the talks are Bennett's got 2 years left, and why is my mind going blank?
Sanchez.
Sanchez. Thank you. Sanchez was signed to a 3-year contract. He left a head coaching job to come back to work with Tony Bennett. Jason Williford has 2 years left. You know, it does appear potentially their thoughts are that Coach Bennett is handpicking his successor, and it's going to be Sanchez. Like, why? I believe with everything in me, if Bennett wants to stay, he already has an extension. Like, Virginia's not. We've said before, I think Coach Bennett decides when Coach Bennett leaves.
He's got the longest leash in the country, I would think.
So what I said last week is, with Coach Bennett, we need to enjoy the ride. And we hope that, you know, we just said, I don't know that this year's team is a team that can compete for it, but if we could get these guys to stick around, that potentially that year too, he could win a national title, and if he wants to leave, go out on top. But we just need to enjoy what we have, because when he leaves, I mean, Sanchez went to Charlotte. Charlotte is no powerhouse, but you know, he had some winning years. But I think his last year there was a under 500 year.
No, his last year there was his best year. He was 22 and 14.
Okay.
He was under 500 though. I think his first year maybe.
I think his overall record was, and then, you know, it takes time to build a program too, and it's Charlotte, but I still say, I mean, Don't take for granted what you have in Coach Bennett. Jay, what are you thinking on that one?
Yeah, I think there's a reason that the Augusta Free Press had to put in the legal request to get that information. They asked for it, and I don't think they were giving it up, and then they had to go through I forget the name of that
FOIA,
Freedom of Information,
Freedom of Information Act. Yep.
Yeah. And so Virginia didn't have a choice but to give it up. And look, I mean, you don't have to be a private detective. Once you get those contracts and you see the wordings,
right.
And you see the timing of it, it just makes too much sense. I mean, Bennett knows that if you go into a recruit's house and you only have 2 years left on your contract, that you can't recruit as effectively. At least in the old days. I think now, I don't think people care as much about the coach as they do about opportunity and NIL and what can you do for me, instead of going to play for a specific coach. But I was having a conversation on X through Messenger with our fan Elton, loyal listener, and highly concerned about the situation. And my response is, there's, just enjoy this year. He's the coach this year. You're pretty sure he's the coach next year. And then he's probably not the coach. I mean, that's like, if he was going to sign it, Jeff, as you said, you wouldn't let the contract get to 2 years and not have something already done, because coaches need 4 years at least, so they can go into a recruit's house and say, oh, I'm definitely going to be the coach till you're gone. My contract every year, like usually these coaches have a rolling contract where it just stays at a 4-year cycle, 4 or 5 years. And so the fact that you've gotten down to 2 years and you don't have anything on the table, and certainly, Jeff, like you say, it's not University of Virginia that's saying we don't want Tony, so we're not going to give him a contract. It's Tony telling the university, let's hold off. Now, why would you do that if you weren't going to leave? And Sanchez has that extra year, whereas if all the years add up, when Tony Bennett walks away and after 2 more seasons, Williford doesn't have to be fired. He can just be not renewed, and there's a difference. Sanchez could bring him back if he wanted to, but I feel like Williford would probably want to move on, at that point. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to say that that's, what's going to happen, but if you ask me what I think's going to happen, then I think that's what's going to happen based on reading the tea leaves.
Right. Mm-hmm. So if Bennett's planning to leave, and I ran through a few scenarios last week, and I just wanted your thoughts. So he could just want to leave and retire. He could want to go to the NBA. And I was mentioned last week, I read reports that he was good friends with the ownership of the San Antonio Spurs. And Pop is, he's at retirement time. I think he has 6 years left on his deal, but that would put him at like 80. So
what a guy.
He's not going to play that out. So 2 years, you could see that could be just walking right into that job. Maybe he wants to go coach. Maybe he wants to take a year or 2 off and then go coach again. And maybe he wants to go out in Wisconsin somewhere. Maybe he wants to go to a mid-major program. I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts? What do you think his thought process may be?
Pull a Jeff Jones and go to ODU.
Well,
he just got filled up though.
Shown the door at Virginia, unfortunately.
It's two different situations, but
for sure. I mean, Jeff did have success at American and then moved up to Old Dominion after he left UVA. But I think this NIL stuff is probably just not in Tony's wheelhouse, and he wants guys that are playing for the front of the jersey, not the back, and pretty much. that's hard to find today. Not saying all the guys are out there just money grabbing, because I don't think that's the case, but it is much harder to just be a basketball coach. And so maybe, I don't see him as an NBA coach because of what he demands and his lifestyle and those things, but he may want to give it a try. He may want to, and what better place to go if you did, if what you were saying and actually came into fruition there and went to the Spurs. You got Wemby, and that dude, he's a monster. Like, you're guaranteed a championship in the next 5 years, I feel like, with Wemby.
And there's some defense right there too.
Right. He should have been the defensive player of the year this year over Gobert, but yeah, you're going to win a championship, whoever the coach is there, I feel like, in the next 5 years, maybe multiple championships. So it could happen. That would be interesting. I hadn't read that. But I definitely think in 3 years, we're having a conversation about, somebody's going to be coaching their first game, and it's probably Coach Sanchez.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I definitely, we see the tea leaves, and we'll just say we've been ultra thankful for what Tony Bennett's brought to the program. You had posted on Twitter earlier in the off season when we weren't getting recruits, the reminder. What was it? The
appreciation post.
Tony Bennett appreciation post, and I can tell you, I think when Virginia won that national title, I was number one happy for myself. But
you weren't happy for me.
I was happy. We're long suffering fans. I was also I can't tell you how, as they say, giddy I was for Tony Bennett. Just because of all that he had dealt with after losing to 16, even and him cutting that net down. And I know I was videotaping the TV. I was just so excited of him cutting the net down. And even when they
slapped Virginia on the bracket,
and then when they went to the Final Four after beating Purdue and cutting the net down, I'm like, gosh, what just a good human being that guy is. And I was just so happy for him and his dad and the whole thing. Just as I said, we just got to appreciate him, enjoy him, and hey, hopefully we're just wrong. And this guy's
and
just
I was going to say,
around.
we could be overthinking this. There's a slight chance we could be overthinking this, but I mean, I don't know. If there's one thing I could just change about the national title run, just one thing, I do kind of wish it was a tad later in my life. Just a tad. I was a 7th grader at the time. I wasn't as mature at the time. I didn't understand how big the national title was at the time and how rare it is to win one.
I will say this.
A little later in my life, huh?
When Virginia lost to the 16 seed, I was able to hear Jack's door pretty strongly.
Well, that
slammed the door to his bedroom.
You didn't have to put soap in his mouth, did you?
We won't discuss what Jack was talking about and saying, but it was, our whole household was not pretty. That weekend, I didn't want to talk to anybody. Leave me alone I didn't say it out loud. All you had to do was look at me and the body English I was giving off.
You don't got to bring me back to this now. Now that I'm thinking about it, that wasn't an awful weekend. That was an awful time in life. That was from the stretch of that weekend all the way till throughout the next season when Duke fans are lining up outside the stadium wearing UMBC jerseys. I mean, that was.
And the thing is, for Jack, Jack at that age was a little bit of a trash talker at the schoolhouse. And so when you talk it big,
and to be clear, I am a changed man now. Now I really don't.
You have to accept what's coming your way. when you lose like that.
I will say though, the following year, that might be the most trash I've ever talked in the history of me talking trash in sports at that school.
he didn't
Because
learn his lesson.
because of the fact, all that I heard the previous year, the next year, everybody's saying the same thing. Oh, they're getting ready to lose Gardner Webb. Oh, they're getting da 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 da. So when they
I
cut
even
that
have
bet
Virginia
down,
Tech fans though that were like, I think they were like scared. They were sympathetic more than talking trash. They were like, man, I'm sorry, man. I didn't see that one coming either.
When I went into work on Monday morning, I was up around the front desk area of the fitness center, and the public affairs officer was there with some people who are shooting some videos, just doing some publicity for the base. And I'll never forget this. There was one person in the world that could have got away with what they got away with, and it was this person. His name is Lindell Stallings. He was the hardest working man that I've ever worked with in the history of my career.
Oh wow!
And he kept our facility clean. Just retired back in November. Kept our facility clean. He doesn't stop for nothing. He works his 8-hour shift. He walked in the door that day. He saw those cameras. He looked at me, said, "Wow, what they got." They brought the camera crew in to talk to the person, see what the fan of a Virginia fan feels like after losing to a 16 seed. I'm gonna tell you, he's the only person in America probably that could have come at me and said something crazy like that, because I was hot.
Jeff gave him the Donald Trump. You fired.
You fired. You fired. Yeah. So,
oh my God.
And then to come back the next year and get the glory that Tony Bennett brought to us, and even how Tony Bennett conducted himself after that game. And I've said it a million times. I learned a lot from that. I needed to learn from that, because I was not an approachable person that weekend. I was not approachable.
Who was the reporter who asked Ty Jerome, "Did you know that a 16 had never beaten a 1?"
Right. Right. Unbelievable.
You asked that question.
Oh my gosh.
Is that? Is that? Yeah, of course. Everybody knows that. Of course.
That's somebody who did not know that. They didn't know that coming into that game. They had to research that before the interviews. They thought they were breaking news. What an idiot. It gives us real media a bad name.
I see what you did there.
I tell you what, ever since we started talking about this, I think our viewership has gone down. I think we were at 10, now we're at 6. People aren't very happy reliving the times of the NBC. So why don't we transition here? Sorry, go ahead, Dad. What do you got?
No, you can transition. We don't have great news on this one either.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we really don't. Unfortunately, the baseball team fell short in the ACC tournament against Florida State, but they will be in the NCAA tournament. Will they still be hosting? Are they supposed to host the regionals?
We don't
know. Is that
I think it's close, but I think they'll be on the right side of that. I'm thinking they're going to be in that 13 to 14.
Hopefully they'll be hosting. But
I think they will.
Regardless, the NCAA tournament is right around the corner for baseball. So, Jay, what does Virginia have to do to make a run in this NCAA tournament?
Well, there's two options. Either you get better pitching than what you've gotten all year long, or you just outscore everybody. And they could do either one of those. I see this team as a super regional team that probably, I think they'll make it to the super regionals. It's not going to be easy. They you run into the situation of you've got one really quality starter that's doing a great job every night. And Blacko, I don't know how you say his name.
Right.
Do you try to sneak him into your second game of the regional? Because if you play him in the first game against the 4 seed, if you are hosting, assuming they are hosting, you're not going to have him for the second game against the better team. So but if you lose that first game, it's a long way back up to get back into the into the championship of the regional. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess you got to look at who you're up against and what their ace pitcher looks like, because you're going to see their ace. And if you think you're playing somebody that their ace is good enough to shut you down, then you got to go with your guy and play it as it comes. But anybody who beats us is going to have to score at least, I'd say, 8 runs, which hasn't been a problem in a lot of games. So I'm concerned that this team can hit the ball well, though. You know.
Yeah,
We'll
I got 2 words. Henry Ford. There you go.
He's a big one.
That I think they're gonna have to outslug. If I'm if I'm hosting, I think I'm gonna take my chances and I'm gonna start. I don't know, our number 2 guy in that first game and gamble, because Blanco has been really good.
Yeah.
And you just got to feel like you got to hope that you can piece together a game and score. You know, we can hit and score enough runs to get through that first one. We'll see. Baseball is tough in college. College baseball is tough because, it's not a 1-game scenario, but once you get in that losers bracket, and ODU beat Virginia this year. ODU's not going to be in the tournament. You're going to lose. You can lose games like that. A team gets hot. A guy comes up, hits a home run. You hit a batter trying to throw a curveball or something, and next batter comes up and happens to hit one out. The pressure gets on, and that's why it makes you nervous about needing offense in the playoffs because, as you see, and I know it gets a little colder, but in the big, the pitching comes into play a lot more in the playoffs because, people get tight. You get tight, and that's when, if you're counting on home runs and offense, and you get up there and you're tight, just like, if you're a team that shoots in basketball, if you depend, live and die by the 3, you could get into a situation where if that 3's not dropping and, tournament play, you're tighten up, you got to be able to have a way to go get a basket and take some of the pressure off. And same thing in baseball. If you can get some pitching until you get that offense going. So I think they're going to have to slug their way through it. And I don't know, that's going to be tough to do. I can see them getting out of the regional, but I hope, you just don't know. Last year we weren't expected to go as far as we did, and we did. So maybe there's some good things to come here. It's been a great season. 40 wins. Like, what we're talking about right now is the team bad. We're just talking about now, how far can we actually get? Right. And what was a great season still, it's going to be tough, I think, to get to the College World Series. So
it's like the teams in the NFL that, they can score a lot of points, but they can't stop anybody. And, NBA teams the same way. And, like even last week, you look at the Virginia Tech game, game 3 of that series, we had won the first 2. We're down 7-0 in game 3. And I didn't even think for a second that game was over, right. Because you just know. But if you get down 7-0 in a regional game, it's over. Like you're not coming back from that. They will manage the game differently. They'll switch pitchers quicker until they find somebody who's working that day. And we've lost some pitching to injuries this year that has been unfortunate.
Yep.
And if we had those guys, it would be a different story. I think this is a national championship caliber team, certainly a national championship caliber offense. But with the guys that we currently have, what you have to hope for is that you get to host your regional, you win that, and then whoever the team is that you're supposed to go to, because we'll be the higher seed, in that next round, they don't win their regional, and then you host the super regional as well. Right. And then maybe you can, in front of the home crowd, you can maybe, get 2 out of 3. So getting to Omaha would be a huge success for this team. I don't think at all that they have the pitching to win it once they get there. But they could make a trip back.
Yep.
We'll
I
see,
agree.
we'll see. Transitioning a little bit, it's time for our UVA Athlete of the Week. Who do you got this week?
Oh, this week, and it's a good time to hit this, and we need this guy big time. Speaking of baseball, we got Harrison Didewick, 23 home runs this season. Just hit that a couple of days ago against Georgia Tech. Ties our single season record. What did he hit last year? I think 6, 5. I don't know.
I don't remember.
He's like the Brady Anderson. Jack, you don't know who that is, but Brady Anderson in the bigs hit like 2, and the next year I think he led baseball like 50 for the Orioles. But no, Harrison Didewick, and this guy is from actually where Jack and I live, and Jack's high school, Western Branch High School, representing Chesapeake, Virginia. 23 home runs, tying the single season record, and hopefully more to come. Hopefully this guy can stay hot. He hit 4 or 5 of his home runs in the last 6 or 7 games. So he's been red hot.
Walk off on senior day.
Correct. Walk off on senior day. We get him one more year, right? And then I'm sure he'll go into the draft after next year.
Yep.
But no, exciting stuff. And Harrison, we need you a couple things. I know you're listening. This is what we need from you. We need you to lead this team through this initial regional. We need you to come on the Cavalier Connection. And if you want to bring your pops and your mom on, we bring the whole family on. We'd love to have you guys. And we could talk some Western Branch baseball, UVA baseball, Major League Baseball. Like, there's a lot in your future. All the way from the WBAC. We'd love to hear about I'm sure you had a great career over there at Chittum Elementary School. All the way over here to Western Branch High School with Coach Roland Wright. I can't get his name out. So we'd love to have you on. But definitely congratulations on being our Who Athlete of the Week. And we need you to keep that thing going.
Absolutely. It's been a stellar season for him, which is great. A couple of last thoughts. Congratulations to the lacrosse team on another solid season. Unfortunately, the season did come to an end today, taking the 12-6 loss to the University of Maryland, former ACC rivals. However, this senior class won a title and had 3 Final Four appearances. So congratulations on a great season. You guys got any thoughts on them?
Yeah. Disappointing end. I was hoping I think it's a pretty big deal to get to that Final Four, especially, the way the season was going towards the back end. You just didn't know, but to get to that Final Four, I know it was a disappointing game today. I wasn't able to catch the whole game. I did watch about 3/4 of the game. When I turned, it might have been my fault. When I turned the game on, it was, I think, 2-1, maybe Maryland, and then Maryland just went on a run. And every time I turned my head around, they were going and getting a goal. So, but what was the final? 12-6, Jack?
12-6.
Yeah. 12-6, yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, lacrosse, as lacrosse does, they're always in it every year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think 4 out of 5 Final Fours, 4 out of the last 5. Like you said, this class has won a championship, and you hate to lose to a team that you beat in the regular season. We had beaten Maryland, I think 14-10, but I'm not the lacrosse analyst, but I can tell you that when you lose 12 out of 14 faceoffs in the first half,
right,
you're going to have a hard time winning, and we just couldn't win faceoffs. With my limited lacrosse knowledge, which typically comes from only watching Virginia,
right.
That seemed to be the difference today. But great season, and look forward to them continuing to have great seasons.
No, it definitely was, and I'm in the same boat as you. Lacrosse knowledge is not there, but the face-offs, and then there was several that it was just a scramble for the ball, and Maryland came up with all those. And if you can't control the ball, and the shot clock is 90 seconds, and they're scoring on you like that, and then you got to try to come back, that makes it difficult. And the last thing I wanted to mention about it, did you see any of the game, Jay?
I did. I didn't see it all, but I saw
you-
quite a bit.
Did you see? I mean, what was your thoughts? I felt like it was a pro Maryland announcing crew. Like everything they said, all they talked about was Maryland, Maryland, Maryland. And maybe that's just the time I was watching.
Yeah, I think some of that too was just they were they were outplaying us, and
Yeah, maybe so.
I wasn't
Maybe
even really
so.
paying
Maybe
attention to what they were saying, to be honest, because I was doing other things. I had the game on, doing other things too. So
I'm glad you're telling the truth on that because I got to tell you, I don't need to hear about everything they turned around and these are pre-planned. They got to show somebody's family here, somebody's family there, and some other highlight stuff. And I feel like it was a pro. I feel like we were watching, when they show a game on ESPN Plus, but they have
the local announcers.
the local
Yeah,
announcers.
like when they got Scott Jackson on the call for the ODU basketball games
Yeah.
from 94-1.
Yeah, that's what it felt like to me. But all good, great season. Final Four came to an end today. We look forward to baseball tournament here and selection Sunday tomorrow.
Yeah. Yep. Shout out to the softball team too, making it to the regional final against Tennessee in softball. They were a little bit outclassed at Tennessee and last week, but heck of a season for them, and hats off, great season.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So as we wrap things up here, do you guys have any closing thoughts for our listeners?
The only thing I'll add is we did pick up a transfer today in football. Don't know if you guys saw that. We got a linebacker out of Cincinnati who's got some playing time there. So I think he had 56 tackles last year. I haven't seen his highlights or anything. Looking at his size, he was like 6 foot 230, which is typically more of the inside linebacker size than the outside linebackers. So I'm assuming he's an inside guy. But yeah, just some experience in the linebacker room that we probably will certainly use this year.
Yep. Yeah, I did see that later in the day where we had picked up a transfer linebacker. So Coach Elliott's still working the portal. So exciting stuff.
We got 98 days till kickoff.
That's exciting stuff right there. I'll tell you. That is some
Yep.
exciting stuff right there.
Yep.
Absolutely. Well, we would like to thank you all for tuning in tonight. Please make sure to give us a follow on YouTube at Cavalier Connection Podcast, or we are now on Instagram at _Cavalier_Connection, and on X, as always, at Talk UVA Sports. Plenty of content for you there every single day. Have a great evening and enjoy your Memorial Day weekend. We will see you guys later.
Go Hoos.
Go Hoos.